February 3rd of the Mashpee School Committee to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and you just noticed that the sign has gone up that this meeting is being recorded. I did have a note here to say that, but forgot it again. At least I'm unmuted. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, folks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item of business is to ratify the agenda for this evening. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Nicole,
I'll second it.
and moved and seconded by Kathy. Any discussion on the motion, Nicole? No, anyone else? Okay, call for the vote. Kathy,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
and George, yes. I don't see Don on here. Are you? No.
Oh,
Okay.
he's coming right now.
He's coming right now? Okay, well, we already took the vote. Next item of business is the student representative, Skylar. You are here. There you are.
Hi,
Hi.
Hello.
good evening. And so Mashpee students, they start the third term today and therefore start the second semester. So some students will be switching from half year classes like gym and art to classes like woodshop and seminar courses, which is exciting. Mashpee girls basketball won their first game of the season last Saturday against Cohasset, which was a hard fought and well-earned win with a score of 40-36. And sophomore captain Amaya Peters contributed heavily and led the team in scoring for that game. And the team is led by senior captain Maggie Connolly, junior captain Cheyenne Hendricks, and sophomore captain Amaya. And I think that's really cool because I've never been on a team that's honored captains at 3 different grade levels all in one team. And so that's really cool. The science fair ran virtually over the past few weeks and was very successful. Students presented in groups over Zoom to 3 different judges where they screen shared their work and discussed their hypotheses, procedures, observations, and conclusions over the period of 20 minutes with each judge. And so congratulations to Nathan and Sean Ware for their winning project, as well as juniors Sam Kersey, Owen Balfour, and Colin Spencer as the 2 groups tied for first place, which is really cool. And it was really great that we were even able to have a science fair, even with the way that school is this year. And yeah, the National Art Honor Society will be making Valentine's Day cards for senior citizens. That's a project they're going to start up soon. Project 351 has selected its 2021 Mashpee Ambassador 8th grader Hannah Rogers. And so Andrew, Katrina, and I will be meeting with her soon. And we're very excited to continue building the Mashpee Project 351 team. Ambassadors are selected by their teachers and administrators based on their leadership potential and exemplary values of kindness, compassion, and gratitude. And so I'm very confident in Hannah's potential to serve and excited to work with her. And to highlight Project 351 some more, last month, high school alumni from across the Cape collected winter gear for the Wonder Fund and made blankets to be donated to a baby center in Hyannis in partnership with Annie's Kindness Blankets. And this project was so fun and a good community builder in place of what would have been launch day over Martin Luther King weekend. The National History Honor Society, which was Anna O'Neill's senior project to start up, has sent out invitations for eligible students to apply. The National Honor Society, as well as the National Math Honor Society, are working on organizing peer tutoring. The class of 2022, which is the junior class, student government is planning some COVID-safe fundraising events, as well as planning for senior shirts, which is exciting. So keep an eye out for more related information for both of those to come. The robotics team, who has proved to be very successful over the past few years, is continuing to practice and engage in competitions. The National English Honor Society is planning another student-led project of recording themselves reading books and then sending those to Mashpee elementary students so they can improve their literacy. Students are looking forward to the fall 2 athletic season with sports like football and volleyball that were excluded from being played in the fall the last time around. And these are expected to begin on February 22nd, so right after break, and run until April 25th. Senior Maggie Connolly is still running her backpack drive for the homeless, and donations can be brought to the high school and to the We Are Mashpee store. And she's looking for toiletry items to be put into those backpacks. And I would be remiss if I did not take some of this time to express some of the thoughts of Mashpee students. So yesterday I posted a survey to ask some of my peers for their opinions on how the first semester went, and most of them centered around being under great stress and lack of material retention. And so we know that teachers are struggling with pacing and engagement. I know that's a big thing that we've, as students, have been hearing a lot. But students are also struggling a lot with finding motivation, especially when being at home, and finding hope with the way that this pandemic just like makes everybody feel. And so personally, I'm managing my workload well, but I feel like that shouldn't really invalidate the stress of my peers, because that's what they told me, is that it's just been really stressful for them the way school is set up this year. And so we of course know that there's no easy fix, because if there was, we would have done it already. But as the first semester of the hybrid year concludes, I thought it would be interesting and important to just see how everyone feels, because I know like within the first month, some people love the remote because they get to be at home more, and some people weren't really into it. So I think that as the first semester ended, it was good to look at how people were feeling then.
Thank you, Skylar. It was great you took the survey also. Comments or questions by the committee? Kathy?
Thanks for the update, Skylar. I mean, has anybody said like what, if they're feeling a little frazzled, have they said anything that might help them not feel that way? Or
I think that it's not even that the workload is all too overwhelmed. It's that it's not that the work that students are being assigned is too hard. It's that everything just really seems to be building up, which can be really difficult, which happens every year, COVID or not COVID, especially because most Mashpee students choose to take rigorous courses and pack their schedules to be competitive for college. But with some people being at home all the time, or some people being at home half the time, some students are a lot better at advocating for themselves than others. And for students who have a hard time at getting the extra support they need unless teachers reach out to them, it can just be difficult with the way that this is.
Just to add on to what Skyla is saying is that we, now that this Friday is the 85th school day for students this year out of 170. So that's the halfway point. And we are having increasing concerns with students during their remote week in terms of engagement and completion of work. We're starting to brainstorm some of the options that will be available in the summer, possibly required for some students, because it's all the way from grade 1 on up in terms of not having, in some cases, enough data collected to measure a student's growth in terms of their production and what they've done. And I know at the high school, Val Strachey can talk about it, but they have done a lot of things in terms of letting kids turn things in, from November on now that we're due. But we do have a problem that we're working on solving, and some of it is going to probably be summer school, because there'll be kids who probably aren't able to be advanced if they don't if we don't find a solution for their engagement in the remote setting. Anyway, sorry.
Thanks, Don?
Well, Skylar, thank you for the update. I guess I'm curious, now that we're about 10, 11 months into this remote learning model, if you or the other students have suggestions in regard to how things could be done differently that would help make remote learning more effective.
I think a lot of it just varies between class to class. And some teachers are trying hard to make it engaging. It's just a difficult situation, but I can definitely ask around and see if anyone has any more specific ideas.
Thanks. Nicole? Oh, Don, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say thank you.
Okay, Nicole?
Yeah, I'm taking ideas at my house too. So if anybody has any, just send them my way. Um, we, uh, we are so grateful to hear from you, Skyla. It's nice to hear about all the activities going on. I think tonight we're going to be talking about a resolution that the Sandwich School Committee passed with regard to the performing arts and chorus and music activities resuming, like we've been able to do with winter sports. So I don't know if you've heard from anybody on that. I just wondered whether you had any thoughts.
One of my best friends is on the Sandwich School Committee, and he also does choir, and so I'm sure that he was active in that conversation. I mean, as a student and representing the students, I think we would love to have those go back, but I don't know what the state regulations look like for why we haven't had that, but why we've had sports. Is it like the being all in one space for so long? I don't know what it is with that.
I can answer that, Skyla. So the state gave us guidance on sports, but has not given us guidance on performing arts. We did hear from the commissioner last week that that was coming soon. So we're very hopeful, but the MIAA worked from March on to create sort of guidelines that the state then adopted, but there isn't as strong a lobby, it looks like, for the performing arts piece at the state level. But I do know that our performing arts teachers are doing really creative and awesome work. So I am very grateful to them for that.
Well, thank you, Skyla. It was great to hear from you.
And
Thank
summing it up,
you.
thanks again, Skyla. Always a pleasure to have you here and to hear what's going on as far as the students are concerned and getting that input from our customers, if you will. Next item on the agenda is called a recognition of service. And this is really kind of a bittersweet moment in a way. This evening, we're recognizing Kathy, who's been with the Mashpee Public Schools for 26 years. She began in '95 as a monitor and then worked in the cafeteria, eventually becoming a school year administrative assistant, and then became the administrative assistant to the Quashnet School assistant principal. And in 2007, she transferred to the central office, where she has worked for the last 14 years. In a lot of capacities as an administrative assistant. Kathy, and the way the most members of the school committee know her most, took on the role of substitute coordinator and, most importantly, school committee recording secretary, a position which she's had for the last 13 years. Kathy has been a positive force in all the roles. I for myself, can say that whenever I see her, she's upbeat. She's energetic, and I've heard from the staff that she's willing to jump in and help in any capacity, such as riding the buses, or I know she's given tours to the new employees, been to the cafeteria, filled in there when needed, Camp Falcon, and the annual volunteer breakfast. She's always willing to take on any new challenges. Kathy is most known for the buses, transportation coordinator, and for her effortless handling of the multiple challenges that come with coordinating safe and seamless bus transportation for all of our Mashpee students. After 26 years with the Mashpee Public Schools and 13 years as our recording secretary, the school committee wants to thank Kathy for her invaluable service and for the impact that she has had on my life. And I think I can speak for the other members of the committee on their lives. And I'd like to wish her all the health and happiness in her retirement. We do have a small presentation for you, Kathy. There is a plaque from the school committee, which reads, "In appreciation of your 13 years as a school committee recording secretary to the Mashpee Public Schools." And you've got it right there, great. And there's also a small token of our appreciation inside a card there. And again, thank you for all of your service and comments by any other members of any members of the school committee. Kathy?
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a real pleasure working for the school. It is surreal because it's still hard to believe I'm not going to be working in Mashpee schools anymore, but I'm sure it'll all, you know, become normal after a while, but it's been a real joy. So continue working hard there, school committee, for our schools and principals and all that. We appreciate it. And thank you for the recognition. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Did you have a helper deliver your gifts?
I did. I don't know. I wasn't sure why he was here at first, but then I figured it all out. I catch on pretty quick, you know, George.
Yes, you do. That I know. From the first
All
day I
those
walked
years
into the
spent recording.
superintendent's office. Yeah,
Yeah, you got it. Well, thank you so much.
thank you. Any other members of the school committee like to say anything? Kathy?
Well, just congratulations on your retirement. It's been a pleasure working with you both, you know, when I would get those calls from you for substituting to just coming in and seeing you in the office. So best of luck and enjoy.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it.
Jeff?
Hey, Kathy, good luck. I admittedly, it's always my first thing. I walk in the door, and I was always disappointed if I didn't see you at your desk. Because I always got to spend at least 5 minutes, you know, shooting it with you and seeing how things were. And I'm going to miss you sitting there. And thanks for all the help over the years, both at the school and with the committee.
Thank you, Jeff.
Dawn?
Kathy, I just can't believe that you're retiring so young.
Me either. Me either, but you know,
You
when you're
know,
wealthy like me, it's easy.
it just goes to show how quickly time flies, and
Yeah.
I hope that you enjoy yourself and have many more years to enjoy your future endeavors. So
Thank
it's been
you,
a pleasure
Dawn.
having you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn.
And Nicole?
Well, George said it really well. You're such a positive presence in the superintendent's office and at the school. And I don't know, I spent a lot of time up there between losing you and Jane Emery. I don't know how I'm gonna like survive walking into either office. So we miss you, but it does make me so happy to think of you enjoying a retirement with your grandchild. And I also, wait, did I say that right? Are you expecting a grandchild?
No.
Oh, that's
Not that I
Jane.
know of. Maybe they haven't told me that.
Sorry,
hope
that's
so.
my memory.
I would be very happy with that, but that's Jane, I think.
No, but I will say that, you know, with Carmen having had your son, you did an excellent job there as well. And
Thank you.
it's obvious that there's going to be a big part of you still at Quashnet. So thanks for all you've done and really enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it.
And once again, Kathy, thanks for everything that you've done for the school committee over these years.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yay, thank you, Kat.
Yay.
We love you, Kath.
Now George has to finish this meeting up on time, so.
Oh, good point. Good point.
All right,
Thank you,
moving
guys.
right along
Really,
then. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Next is our district nurse coordinator, Stacy.
Good evening, everyone. As you will see on the website, I know the packet had the copy of almost with December, but January has now been updated since we're in February. So it's also on our website for the dashboard with our January stats. Things are moving along as we have been in the COVID world. So if people have questions on what's on the dashboard, feel free. You'll see we are still actually receiving flu vaccinations, even with the vaccine requirement being lifted by DESE as a requirement. Families are still participating, and we still have families who have appointments, and immunization records are still coming in. So that's been really good. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about any of that data.
You did receive the updated dashboard, I think, today in an email, if you're curious.
So I did have one question. So when I looked at January, we basically doubled in January our year-to-date numbers as far as positive cases from 2.2% to 4.4% of the student population. Are we going to try to do anything? I'm assuming that, you know, the Christmas break was a lot of that. Are we going to do anything to try to strongly encourage students to continue to be diligent during the upcoming winter break?
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead, Patty.
Partnership, yes, a collective yes.
Okay.
Continuing to emphasize the expectation of the behaviors that will help to keep us safe and keep our learning plan in place. And Stacy might add this, but the families that she's connected with after they've had a positive case in their household, or just inquiring ahead of time, have kept a lot of positive students out of our schools. So, you know, the rules that we have for when you should stay home, families are abiding by that, and families are calling Stacy in advance to get that, you know, sort of personalized instruction, and that's helped to keep positive cases out.
All right. Because I would hate to see the trend continue for February.
My anticipation is it won't. I mean, if you look at the town numbers, we are, you know, trending more down in a downward way. And also testing results are coming back in a very timely manner now. A lot of people will get tested in the morning and have their results in their patient portal that evening or the next morning, more than not. We have better systems in place in the healthcare model. Most of our pediatricians on the Cape have rapid PCR tests in their offices. So we are getting real-time test results, which is really awesome. We don't see a barrier to access to care and testing and follow-up for that, and or contact. If you're identified as a close contact, you're able to get a test. So that's really come a long way since the fall. And people are doing an amazing job, as Patty said, communicating in real time, 7 days a week, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. And it's really, really paying off. And I collaborate with my other district counterparts. We have our system is really working, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Stacy.
I'm looking forward to the day when we don't receive a email or note indicating that someone is tested positive. So
you'll be getting one after the meeting.
Oh, but it continues. I was afraid.
Well,
starting tomorrow, maybe.
But again, we made the commitment to our community that we would report any positives of any students because we didn't have that data back in March. Almost, it was actually this Monday was a year exactly since Massachusetts had its first case of COVID. So we've been living this for a while. It's still a fluid situation. We learn stuff every day. You'll see our letters tweak as we learn and hear and see for communication and where we need to do maybe a better job or clarify. So it is a fluid process, but we are reporting any case that if the student is a Mashpee Public Schools student or staff person. So, and you know, we have a lot of students and staff in our district. So I know it every day there is something, but we actually are moving forward.
I think I gave you,
Thank you.
Dawn, I think I gave you a couple of weekend days off. There was nothing, so don't forget about those days when you have a few in there.
Could have been one. So I appreciate all the hard work that everyone is doing, and do not by any means want to belittle the efforts that you're putting in. I'm just, as with probably everybody else, hoping desperately that we will see the end of this someday soon. So thank you very much for everything.
Thank you. And asymptomatic test pool testing.
I'm sorry, George, may I ask a question, please?
Sorry.
Have we had any cases as a result of athletics other than the stuff over Christmas since we've started competitive sports with other districts?
We have.
Oh, okay. But nothing that would prevent us from continuing, or is that later in the meeting?
It puts a temporary halt on some teams' activities, but not at this point.
Sorry, can I just clarify, Nicole? Were you asking if we've had spread with athletics
Positive cases.
or any cases of an athlete?
Cases, but I'm referring directly to the fact that we're now competing with other schools, indoor sports. And I just wanted to know if any of those students if we've had positive cases from that population.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we have had positive cases on our teams, but in terms of determining if it came from another team, that I don't think we can speak on. I don't know that that's happened.
Okay. I was kind of confused earlier when Skyla said that the girls basketball team had their first competitive game.
No,
She was referring to their first win of the year, Mrs. Bartlett.
W.
Oh, okay. So they have been playing. Okay. I'm sorry. I was just, but in terms of athletics, we're status quo right now. We haven't seen anything with respect to COVID that would cause us to, I'm sorry, let me back up. You're sort of handling it on an individual team basis. So if something happens to make it look like it's a problem, that individual sport is put on pause. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. The whole team is quarantined regardless of whether you could actually close contact them or not. And it is still a day-to-day activity. So, it could close down tomorrow. So we are just seeing each day that we can get sort of under our belts. It still allows them to, exercise their competitiveness, but we don't know if it's going to make it through the whole winter season. And we don't know what the winter 2, which starts February 22nd, is actually going to look like.
Okay. That was my follow-up question, but not really for Stacy, just later. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Stacy.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And asymptomatic testing? I know there's
Sure.
been some go along with that, Patty.
Well, I'm going to start a little bit, but Stacy's definitely more of an expert. So we did fill out the paperwork to be potentially be a district that would participate in the asymptomatic pool testing, which I think we spoke about before, but it is a 6-week program that is fully funded by DESE or by some federal money, some money somewhere, which would give you a snapshot. It's only good as a snapshot. It would have to be done every week, and you would, select a pool of staff members. Again, this is contingent on whether our staff even wants to participate in this. If the majority of them are not interested in being pool tested every week, then it's not something that we would move forward on. But we've completed all the different steps, and we heard back from DESE that we were matched. So a provider has been matched to Mashpee. And at this point, we're waiting for information from that provider and more information from DESE for the next steps that we would have to take. We did indicate in our application that we have no resources that we would be putting towards this program at the end of the 6 weeks. There is no funding for it. And, the thing for me, which I think we've talked about before, I don't know the benefit that it's going to give our current structure or learning plan. If we pool tested, every Friday, a certain group, or then there's a process, they get those results back pretty quickly. Everyone in that pool, if you happen to be positive, then has to take the Buy Next Now test, which also gives you a quick result. And if you then test positive from within that test, you have to have a PCR test. All of it is supposed to be pretty streamlined and quick, so that you could then, not have a major impact on your operations. But that's where we're at right now. We were accepted by DESE. We're waiting to get more of the details. Stacy could share out if she has any more information.
She did actually a very good job summarizing. And all of the overview is on the DESE website. If you do DESE pool testing, you will see all of the information is on there, the webinars, the handouts. But if you have specific questions right now, I'd be happy to answer them.
Kathy? No? Jeff?
Just real quick. So the the requirements that you're listing out for all, I guess it'd be 2 of the testing programs. Are those like, hey, you need to follow these rules if you want to be part of this project?
Correct.
So
It's a setup plan. So there's
okay.
there's criteria. We can't waiver, so to speak, from it. But it is the antigen test that's used if the pool testing comes back positive is the Buy Next Now. So it would allow us to have that availability There is a lot of research going on to see if it is helpful. It does seem to be and has been approved. If you have a pool test positive, because that's an initial PCR pool, that if that's positive and you do a Binex now and get a positive, you're pretty much guaranteed that that's the positive. But you still have to follow up with the PCR. So
fair enough. Yeah.
It's a lot of steps, but.
So if, for example, if we did the Binex now, I know these are all connected, but if we just did the Binex now, for some reason, I know there was a lot of stuff discussed for restrictions. Could we use that just for example, testing of like athletes?
So,
Or
the
reading
way-
mind, Jeff, you're reading sick mind. That's what she wants.
So that's what I want. Well, I not just athletics, but I would like to have them teach us, give us supplies and see how it works, and have, people hopefully be interested. They actually ask that you have 100% participation rate of your population. That's a lot of people. I already have, just because of the last school committee meeting and speaking about this, after that meeting, had many interactions and inquiries about, not wanting their children tested or how it was going to work. Again, it would be with permission only. It's not required. It would be very organized and communicated and voluntary. It's not mandatory. But you also have to have a big enough population to do it. So
right.
Again,
well, I know when you talked about the Binex now the first time, one of the requirements was we could only use that for a symptomatic person. And I assume that's the requirement for being in the pilot project.
So this pilot, the way Binex now is, it's the reason why it's assumed that you are symptomatic is because you are pool tested.
I'm trying to separate the two. So
you can't really separate them.
Okay. So we couldn't get Binex now, just Binex now, and say we're going to use that to, excuse me, test, group extracurriculars.
Not in and of itself as a standalone.
And that's because of the requirements of DESI?
Correct.
Got
and
it.
this type
Okay.
of testing. And Binex now has not been approved to be used outside of a PCR pool initialized test. We're getting there. Eventually, we'll probably see Binex now on asymptomatic down the line, but we're not there yet. But if you have a pool test, so your first test that you do, the pool testing, the initial swab of, let's say it's 10 people.
Yep.
That is actually a rapid PCR pool test.
Okay.
So if that triggers a positive, the assumption is that I have somebody who's symptomatic and doesn't know it. So an asymptomatic positive person. So the Binex now, if I get a positive out of that, I can pretty much assure myself that I have somebody that's positive. And then one of those Binex now should be a positive if I have a positive in my pool, but then you still have to follow up with the PCR. So I'm not still 100% convinced that this is the right kind of pool free, but it's free for 6 weeks.
Well,
So-
I didn't mean to make you repeat that whole thing.
I know,
I think that
it's
maybe
fine.
there was some confusion for me. So when we originally talked, I think last school committee meeting about the first project that came down with the testing we could only do for people that were symptomatic.
That's right.
Was that Binex now?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Got it. All right. Moving on. Thank you.
No worries. You're welcome.
Don?
Just refresh my memory. What was the minimum size of the group
So they
Okay.
recommend a pool of 10.
of 10? And so assuming that you're assembling a group of 10 random students.
Well, I don't
one
think, go ahead.
With staff.
of- or staff, right? If one of those tests positive, then all of the others have to go into quarantine. Is that correct?
So with pool testing, if I do 10 of us and we have a positive result come out of that, all 10 of us come back to a location and do a Binex Now test. We should have those results back within 15 to 30 minutes. If we trigger a positive, then we are pretty sure that that is the positive. If we are all negative, then we all get to go for a PCR test. The rationale with this is you're an asymptomatic positive. With the way it's written right now, you are actually still not needing to go quarantine until your PCR comes back. Because if you don't show up positive in a Finex Now rapid test, the assumption is you are not viral shedding at this time. So you can still proceed accordingly with being advised that knowing that somebody's positive, doing extra precaution measures, all the mitigating measures we already have, 6 feet, hand washing, masked, and a PCR test. And now that PCR testing turnaround is usually 24, max 48 hours, that part would be in our protocol so that you would know within a day, 2 max, who your positive is.
And so if an individual got the vaccine, would they have to not get vaccinated if they were part of that test, of that control group?
So we are still, actually, it's a really good question because somebody else asked that in the meeting the other day. Right now, as long as you're asymptomatic, you are allowed to be vaccinated. If you are symptomatic or currently test positive, you were advised, the initial guidance was not to receive your vaccination for 90 days. 2 weeks ago, it shortened to about 3 weeks. Last week, it shortened to as long as you were 2 weeks post you're positive, you were okay. So it changes daily. So in this situation, you would still be okay because it's assumed that you're asymptomatic, because you wouldn't be doing this pool testing if you had symptoms. You would be going straight for a PCR.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nicole? Thank you. Thank you very much, Stacy. And we
You're welcome.
appreciate all the work and long hours that you're putting in. I speak for all members of the school committee when I say that.
My
Next
pleasure.
on, pardon?
My pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Next is the public comment. Hope, I don't see anyone. Is that true? I don't see.
That
Hope.
is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item is budget discussion. The finance working group has met and made a recommendation. One of you guys want to take over from that? It's either Nicole or Jeff, I believe.
I defer to Vice Chair Bartlett.
Oh, sure. I like how you did that. Okay, I only have one monitor, so let's see. What were we, did you just want to hear our recommendation? Is that what you're queuing me for, George?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
Yeah, we met as a working group on Monday afternoon, and the first order of business was the revised request from Rodney to basically cover, it was a lot less than what he had suggested at the last school committee meeting. Instead, it was just to cover the operating expenses portion of the budget, which was an additional, there's an exact number, but about $98,000 out of choice. And then that would do it for them. So we recommend that the school committee cover that additional amount out of choice. And I believe the revised budget has been updated in the narrative for your consideration and approval.
Thank you.
So can I just add, so the FY22 budget for Mashpee totals 23,000, I wish.
Wow, what a savings.
$23,936,300. And it is recommended that we use an offset of $637,289 from our school choice program funds. And that would mean that the town of Mashpee appropriation is $23,299,011, which is a 2.29% increase from our previous year's budget. So that's basically what you'd be voting on.
Thank you. Kathy, questions, comments?
No, not at this time.
Okay, John?
So at the last meeting, there was a lot of question and uncertainty in regard to the town's budget. And Rodney was asking, or the town manager was asking for a significantly higher amount from the school or from school choice. Can you just elaborate in regard to how that was resolved?
I can take that. So Dawn, the two areas that the town manager had a concern with had to do with the health insurance premiums. He had in the budget at 9% increase for next year. So that was a stress area for them. And the other area was a 4% increase for the Cape Cod Tech for the tuitions we pay for our students. And I know that in conversations and the final outcome is a 2.8% increase for the health insurance premiums. And for the Cape Tech, instead of a 4%, which he was anticipating, it's 1.99%. And actually our enrollment has gone down a couple of students, and Ashley Lopes's conversation with the Cape Tech business manager, she actually felt that we were flat. Maybe Ashley, maybe I'm not getting that correct. But the two areas of concern were addressed, and after that, the town manager said that he was just looking for that 98,000 plus increase in our school choice program offset.
All right, and then in regard to CIP.
Yes, so let me get that. I'll find that 1 second.
Before we continue, Don, I don't know whether you just took a piece of paper off your microphone, but I can finally hear you.
Yeah.
I can finally hear you. Okay, so whatever you just did, please keep it like that for the rest of the meeting. Okay,
all right. I don't know where my microphone is, but apparently it's when I had my paper here, it was covering it up. Okay, I apologize. So on CIP, because we had included an amount in the budget tentative to whether or not that would be approved by CIP. So how did CIP end up?
So CIP for the schools,
Yes.
we ended up with, and remember some of our items are under Catherine or got moved to Catherine. So under planning and construction, there's 50,000, which includes flooring for the schools. It may actually have flooring for other parts of the town as well. So that piece. The Quashnet Library air conditioning installation is in the recommendation. Remember, town meeting has to approve all this. That was in 75,000. The MMHS parking lot resurfacing, which was not something we requested, but it is tied into the solar canopies that are being installed. That's 350,000. That is recommended. And the school security upgrades of 90,000 is also recommended. And then specific to our schools, the food service equipment upgrades at 25,000, those were approved. Chromebook leases at 45,000. The interactive board systems in classrooms at 25 instead of 95 that we had in there originally. The replacement of teacher PCs is 56,000. The wireless upgrades at 30,000. And the installation of the 3 flagpoles not the 3 flagpoles, flagpoles at the schools for 30,000. Not moving forward for this year is the turf field project at the high school, which is, I believe, was 7.4 million. Also not advancing is the Quashnet School gymnasium renovations. So we'll put that in for FY23, both of those. And then I believe under the technology, there was the FM amplification systems. I think it was about 280,000. I'm not sure. I don't have it right in front of me.
252.
52. That was, thank you. That was also not recommended.
All right. So the 299 that you talked about is what will match the town manager's budget request or appropriation request for the schools.
I'm not sure I understood the first part of your question.
So is the 23,299,000 that we have listed here as being our budget appropriation request, that will match what the town manager is going to be recommending?
Yes, because we also forgot to point that out, that under CIP, that 131,000 in tech, which is the Chromebook leases, the teacher PCs, and the was it the wireless upgrades? There are 3 items in there that we previously had in our operating budget for FY 22 of 131,000. That was removed from our budget narrative and all of our budget documents, because now because it is going to hopefully at town meeting get funded by CIP.
Right. Oh, okay. That's why I wanted to make sure that what we're requesting is what the town manager is also
Yes,
agreeing to request, correct?
he's agreeing to support, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think it's worth noting, and it's not maybe a problem, but given the nature of the use of our fields this year because of COVID and everything, we don't even know what's going to happen with the football season. There was additional money. I didn't see you mention it there for field maintenance that is not being awarded by CIP.
Yes, you're correct. I forgot to mention, we had requested 200,000 basically for the next 5 years to do some upgrades to the Mashpee Middle High School fields. What the town manager has agreed to do is to increase the field maintenance budget under DPW by 100,000 for this next year. I'm not sure what it originally started at. We're going to look into that, but there is, we did meet on the school side to develop a plan for what we'd like to have happen to those fields in terms of maintenance, routine maintenance and care. And the next step is to meet with Catherine, but at least there was an acknowledgement to put some money on the DPW side to take care of a little bit more attention to the fields.
I guess one other question. So we are sure that unlike what happened in previous years when CIP funds were requested for food services, those will not be funded from the food services revolving account, correct?
That is correct, and particularly since there's no money in that account, but that is correct. It's all coming out of the CIP fund. For the only thing that they're taking, they are getting some money from the cable group MCAT. And so there's a piece on the town side, and the 30,000 in wireless upgrades for the schools is going to be back funded through, they believe, through MCAT. But nothing is coming out of any revolving accounts.
Nothing coming out of any school revolving accounts, correct? All right, that's good to hear.
And I know Jeff and Nicole who were involved in all the conversations. Do either of you have any other questions or comments?
No.
Okay, great.
I'm
And,
actually, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion and we can continue discussion if you like.
Thank you very much.
I move to approve the FY22 budget as presented in the packet for the bottom line of $23,299,000. I'm sorry, town appropriation of $23,299,011 and a school choice offset of $637,288.97.
Thank you. Motion has been made. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Jeff, comments?
No, sir.
Anyone else? Kathy? I know this is your first year here, so this was overwhelming when I arrived, so I know exactly where you're sitting.
I'm just taking notes and I'm learning.
Okay. And Dawn, any further questions?
So in the past, school committee has taken the stance that the offset would be up to the amount. And I did not hear that in the motion.
I'd be willing to amend the motion to include up to, and I have to find my piece of paper again.
600.
$637,288 $88.97.
Maybe round up.
I refuse to round up.
Okay.
Okay, Don?
That needs to be seconded, but I can second that, yes.
Okay, fine, thank you. Made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion for the budget? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And George, yes. Motion passes 5-0. Next is a consent motion to approve the minutes of January 20th, 2021. Chair will entertain a motion.
This is Kathy. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. A motion has been made to approve the minutes of January 20th, 2021. Is there a second to the motion?
This is Jeff. I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Kathy? Anyone else? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And George, yes. Motion passes 5-0. Next is the report of the superintendent, please. Oh, wait a minute. I skipped by public comment. No, I didn't. I already went through public comment. I finally remembered to do that. Okay, so now we're down to the report of the superintendent.
Okay. So just a quick overview of new employees as of February 1st. We have Michelle Rebello. She's a special education teacher at Quashnet. She took the place of the retiree Alice Shaden. Felicia Ryder is an administrative in the Quashnet School main office. She took Jane Emery's spot. Susan Cheklik is an administrative assistant at the Coombs School. She actually just started on Monday. And then Tamika Hatcher is a long-term substitute paraprofessional at the Coombs School. Next, I'm looking at the enrollment page. Does anyone have any questions for our February enrollment? It shows a total of 489 students at the end or as of the beginning of February, I'd say end of January, which is down one student from where we were at the end of December. You can see a little bit of shift to 100% remote. I do get the notifications on a daily basis when students switch their learning models, and there is a mixture. I think there was a general push, not a push, but a little bit of a trend to switch from hybrid to 100% remote for our older students, and even for our 100% in-person in the K-3. But I've seen a lot more recently of students shifting back for various reasons. So that's a very fluid situation. But I don't know if you have any questions on that sheet.
I don't know if it was there last month, but thanks for adding the stuff in the middle there on the other enrollment data.
Oh, well, it was there, but that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't notice it last month, but it's helpful.
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, Patty?
Okay. We also have, well, let me just talk a little bit about my part before I switch to administrator reports. Just a couple of my quick highlights, although, you know, whenever you follow Skyla, I can take about half of my items off my list. I did want to give a shout out to Amanda Howe. She just recently received notification of receiving a Mashpee Cultural Council grant of $985, which is going to be used to support her Upper Cape Hackathon. And as you might recall, I believe she also got a Cape Cod 5 grant that I talked about the last time that was also going to be used for that activity. Skyla already mentioned the virtual science fair and those who won. She really only mentioned the first place. I might throw a few of the lower ones in there. So second place went to Cheyenne Hendricks and Skyla Rimple for their Is It the Caffeine That Induces Plant Growth in Coffee. Third place went to Abigail McGrory and Allie Leitz. Which leading brand of whitening mouthwash is most effective? And then there were some honorable mentions, Sydney Puchel and Sean Smith. They did the project of the effects of pH on plant growth. Evelyn Preventure and Isabella Egan, they did Does Light Affect the Rate of Decay in Beans? And Taylor LaCava and Olivia Duque did Do Words Affect Plant Germination Rates? So I know it was a very different experience, but I'm glad we were at least able to have that virtual science fair. And then another recognition to celebrate is that the Cape Cod Commission has selected MMHS senior Nathan Ware to be one of their climate ambassadors. And so Mashpee will be very well represented. I believe the science department head had also talked about a couple more students were sort of in the pipeline that may also be selected for that. And then I think we talked, and Skyla is always so timely, she must be able to read my mind, but just the general increased concern that we have as an administrative team and as a team of teachers and educators about student performance, student learning, student engagement, particularly with our remote learners. And it's becoming challenging, frustrating for teachers who put a lot of effort and work into making sure materials are ready and students have what they need, but then invariably it doesn't seem to work out when the actual, Zoom is taking place, and it's becoming, it just requires a lot of extra energy on the part of teachers. And I think we need to partner as best we can to provide supports to our families, to our parents, and to our students, because many of our older students are independent at-home learners. And so, they don't have a parent who's necessarily going to be checking in on them all the time, although I would recommend to all parents that needs to be a continual process through many of your years of getting your children to be 18 years old. Just sharing a story of some of the frustration is that many of our students are learning from their beds, from their bedrooms, comfortable, which can or cannot work. But I think when you're in that environment, you might end up being more likely to drift off. And I know Skyla said that kids are having a hard time being motivated, and whatever their reasoning might be. And there's a lot to look into in terms of sleep patterns and all of that. But, when a teacher ends up calling an assistant principal because a student has fallen asleep on a Zoom, the assistant principal calls the parent goes into the bedroom to wake up the child to then re-engage with class. That's just not working well. And so I think the best way is offering that one-on-one support from an administrator to a family to really see what we can do to change things. We can't bring all of our kids 100% back in because we still have 6-foot restrictions and bus restrictions. We have made a few accommodations when, in severe cases to add them in, but we need to really figure this out. So we're trying to problem solve. One of the pieces that we're going to land with, and we'll present it to the school committee a little ways down the road, but not too far, is a summer academy type program. We're not planning to run Camp Falcon, but we are planning to run a 6-week academic focused ramp up type of a skills-based learning opportunity for students who, in order to really advance to the next grade, would have to participate in the summer learning in order to demonstrate that they have a level of growth that qualifies them to move on. So anyway, there'll be more of that to come. Oh, I did want to also point out before switching to the administrators this is National School Counseling Week. And I just want to really give a shout out. We have a fabulous group of 10 counselors in our district, and starting at the middle high school, we have Lindsay Kett, Julianne McCush, Deanne Almeida, Melissa Plourde, and Deanna Crowther. And of course, Lindsay is sort of our K-12 director of guidance. And at Quashnet, Sean Withington, Meg Morrison, and Lauren Majacomo. And at Casey Coombs, Phoebe Lambert, and Taylor Marquardt. And what these people do, in my opinion, is not only support those learners and build relationships with the students, but they also do that with the families. And in some cases, these people are true safety nets for kids who otherwise would not be able to find success. And they continually go above and beyond in their roles to reach out and to do what they can to help students succeed. So they'll be part of our planning for, and we have been planning and addressing students who are not finding the success we want for them, but they will be an integral part in continuing to put some layers in place that can help our students. Any questions on anything? I did want to get one other point about this year. The Cape and Islands superintendents and the Cape and Islands Union presidents combined to provide a letter to Governor Baker about, and I know that there's a shortage of vaccines, so it's kind of like a moot point, but we did our best to express a way to have our individual districts or team up with another district to provide vaccines for our staff members. And we did hear back from them, and they acknowledged that, and they say more vaccines are coming. I did have a meeting today with Representative Vieira and 2 members from MBL, and they do have freezers that would accommodate the Pfizer vaccine that they would deliver to. They don't have enough for every school district, so if they could find some common places, and we all wanted to team up, and if we could get and listening to George, who can't even get his vaccine, but if we were able to get vaccines for all of our staff in that central spot, and then our nurses could administer them, or a team could support the fire departments as well. So the next step from that was Representative Vieira had asked me, and I have it almost done. He wanted the total number of staff members from every district on the Cape, and he's going to take that to the COVID, some central committee that he's part of, and present that this is the number of staff members that we would be interested in securing vaccines for. Because I said to him, I do not want our staff members have to go through what George is going through, which is no one has enough time for that. And I just want them to be able to, show their who they are and fill out a paper and get their shot, and we keep all the records or we do all of the hard work. So I don't know, but there is a little bit of hope. So we'll see. But there is currently not that much vaccine coming to Massachusetts. I think when we had the meeting, it's something like, I don't know if I was going to say 96,000 or 89,000 units. So that's the problem. We need to get more, but we would like to have sort of a centralized approach for educators or school employees. So we'll see. We're working on it.
Stacy?
I just may also interject today's meeting with the county. We have 975 doses that are coming to the Cape every week, 975.
70.
For we are still in phase 1, and we are starting phase 2, section 1, and there's educators are still 3 things down. We have 275,000 eligible individuals who are meeting the age criteria for phase 2, part 1, and we still haven't finished 1. So, and we only get 975 doses. So I know, poor George, you always call me the Debbie Downer, which is true, but even I can do that math and tell you we don't have enough access yet. But if we all go back and remember H1N1, eventually it will get here. We are hoping within the next 2 to 3 weeks to have enough to get through and really a good chunk of phase 2, part 1. And again, this phase 2 goes through April. So the system's in place. You don't have to wait. Individuals who do get in line and an appointment, like literally in and out. There are awesome venues and setups, and we are working with the town and the county to do that. But again, the vaccine is just not here. So thank you.
Well, actually, that makes me feel a little bit better anyway.
One of the things that the MBL gentleman said was their freezers are really large. And so it makes no sense to just have it land in one district where you have a third of it filled versus everybody, if we could get the vaccine.
Other questions? Patty?
Yeah, Patty, I had a question about your first, that was funny, Kathy. Your first comment there about sort of delivering learning and how our students are faring, and the option for perhaps summer institute or classes or something. So I haven't had to think about something like that as a school committee member. So where does something like that where's the budget for that come from? If we were to had to go down that route.
So it could come from 2 places, the roughly 45 to 50,000 that we have in the budget for Camp Falcon for next year. I mean, we have that in our budget. Also, some of the COVID money that we've received can definitely be used for that. Right, Ashley, do you agree?
Okay, so it's not as expensive. And so with the summer program, we don't have responsibility for transportation?
No, but we may want to put that piece in because we're trying to reach all of our students. And if transportation is a problem, then we would put that into the budget as we plan for this experience.
Other questions?
Yeah,
That
this
would
is
be-
Don.
Oh,
Just
hang
to
on one
follow,
second. Just one second. Would that be this fiscal year budget, or would it be next?
It's FY22 for Camp Falcon.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Dawn?
so would that be a mandatory or optional attendance requirement?
In many cases, it will be mandatory. I mean, it's mandatory to the best we can, I mean, in the end, but in certain situations, if a student's deficit is so far below the grade level that they are supposed to be entering, they could choose not to do it, but they will not advance to the next grade. Conversations have already begun with families, and in some cases that's made a difference. It's not a veil threat. It is something that may be an outcome of this, COVID year in terms of students engaging and doing the work that they need to do.
Okay. Understood.
There was a substantial discussion on this topic at the Mask Leadership Summit, which is all the division chairs, so this is something that districts across the Cape, I mean, not just across the Cape, but across the Commonwealth are dealing with and considering. So I'm happy to connect you with some of those districts that are going down that road. There were a number of people mentioning that on the call, so I don't know.
Nicole, if it's okay, I'm going to add to that when the commissioner talked about that next pot of COVID money, that is one of the things DESE is actually looking for schools to spend their COVID money, their second round on. So I think we'll be getting guidance from the state on this as well.
Wow.
Wow.
It's the year that just won't stop.
Oh, you said it.
We're going to make it awesome though. We're going to make it awesome.
Awesome.
Is
Anyone
it school
else?
in the summer?
Hey, hey,
How awesome can it be?
you'll see. You'll see how awesome it can be.
Oh, I won't see. I will not see. I will not be seeing that at all.
We're hoping by sort of communicating this at the halfway point of the school year that everybody can sort of kick it up a gear and get their ships righted if they can.
Can we use COVID money to pay for air conditioning then?
No, but we're going to mostly use rooms at the high school where there is air conditioning.
Hopefully that's enough. Thank
Okay, anyone else for Patty?
You also have the the AD's report is in here, and also Consuelo's report, our outreach coordinator. Do you have questions about either one of their submissions? And go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't unmute quickly enough. I did want to say that I spoke to Consuelo, and she had sent out those. I mentioned to her that the committee should be given the option to volunteer for things. She was not soliciting us because we were all volunteers on the school committee, but I said, no, that's the fun stuff. It's like the stuff you actually get to do with the kids. It's not just, meetings on Wednesday nights. So I encouraged her to keep us in mind when they do those, because I get quite jealous when I see on Facebook all these people, how great the mock interviews were. And I'm like, how come I didn't get asked to do mock interviews? So that was why I sort of had her push that out. And I hope that was okay with everybody.
Fine.
And we have our three principals here. Do you want to hear from our principals?
Sure.
Okay. Let's start with Mary Kate.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you tonight. I'm not used to going first. This is something different, but I'm happy to be here. And before I share anything from Quashnet specifically, I would just like to acknowledge Kathy Loico. She has been a rock for us. She is a great go-to person, resourceful, always pleasant, always willing to help myself, my team in the office, as well as all of the teachers. So Kathy, you will be missed terribly and from Quashnet School, and you really have left a lasting impact on all of us. So thank you for your years of service for Mashpee Public Schools and all you have done for Quashnet, its families and students. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kate.
Absolutely. I'll miss you.
I'll miss you.
And so the other thing I would like to share is last week was Kindness Week at Quashnet, and we had a lot of Quashnet kindness ninjas going around our school, and it was spearheaded through a virtual assembly that we had on Tuesday with Brian Williams. He's out of Reno, Nevada. And it was really wonderful. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to go in terms of a virtual assembly, but he was very, very engaging. And he had a lot of pre-recorded pieces, but he was able to be on Zoom and call out students directly. He was very inspirational. And I think just the strategies to bring some joy, to bring some excitement, it was just a really nice focus for that time period. So we had 2 assemblies, one for 3rd and 4th grade, one for 5th and 6th. And he challenged us. He challenged Quashnet School to be the kindest school out there. And he is asking for students to perform 5,000 acts of kindness in the next 15 days. So we have about a week and a half left. And our kindness journals, where students are writing down different deeds they are doing, they're bringing them into school. So we'll have a display of all of these acts of kindness. I really think we can do more than 5,000 because with about 450 students, that's a little more than 10 each. And I see kind acts all the time. And especially with those, with our Falcon 5, it just really reinforces that. So it's been nice to see these ninjas are going around school, leaving messages, leaving posters, they leave notes. And it's really been a nice activity and something really positive. The other piece too is our K Kids with Miss Manning. They have been really active in terms of pushing forth kindness, and all of the students were given a bingo card and making bingo kindness acts and bringing those in as well. So I know we're on the road to being the kindest school around. Sorry, Mark and Deb. But it's been a great push. Also, our 4th grade teachers have recognized that our students are not reading as much as they should be, and we are worried about the progress of our students overall. But the 4th grade teachers have very enthusiastically embraced a new reading challenge. It's called the Reading Race, and it is a race between the Mashpee cohort and the Falcon cohort. And they have every book that's read, there's a little paper chain, and it's going to go up in the hallways. It's already started. So if anyone's listening, get those 4th graders reading, get all of our kids reading. It makes all the difference. 20 minutes a day will reap many benefits. So that is a wonderful piece. And as I often do on these share outs, I just have to recognize our teachers and our whole staff, but they have such dedication, such passion. They care so much about our kids, and they are really doing everything they can to reach the students. They are preparing packets. Every Friday, we have a remote pickup at 1:30 around the backside of Quashnet School. These packets are complete with a whole week of work for those students who are going to be remote or are 100% remote. And it's just time consuming. It's incredibly time consuming for the teachers, but so important for the students. And we really are looking for that partnership with the parents in order to best meet the needs of the students. We need their support and their help and reinforcement for the kids, because I know like everyone wants that success for the kids. We want to see the progress, but we need to work together to do that. But thank you to our teachers for that. Any questions?
No, thanks. Next.
How about Coombs Principal Goulart?
You're muted.
Unmute, Deb.
Oh, and I made a great joke about Mary Kate too, but I can't go back. Thank you for telling me. Hello again. A couple of things. We're involved in our own reading challenges at Casey Combs. Right now we are doing a reading challenge in conjunction with the Mashpee Public Library in Janet Burke. And if the students can reach the goal that's been decided, they get candy from Gelfies. Come on, that's a great gift, right? That's a good thing to work for. We also, today was Read Across America Day. So some of our staff dressed up. I am the lollipop. I don't know if you can see it or not, but from Eric Carl's book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. However, nobody beats Mr. Prana, who was the beautiful butterfly today with his wings and his antenna. It's lovely. So lots of teachers had fun with that today. And like Patty said, we have some new personnel for the first time in forever. There's 3 people out in the office. It's kind of really cool. So that's been going well. Teachers have been crushing it, working hard, doing what's best for kids, contacting parents if there's a problem. And then finally, I just want to say to Kathy Loico, how much you helped me when I was the director of curriculum, because the former superintendent, former Ann Bradshaw, said, come be the director of curriculum. It's easy. Well, it wasn't easy, and I didn't know everything about it, but it was a great learning experience for me. And Kathy, I could not have done it without Kathy Loico. So we've become good friends, and I love her, and I'm going to miss her terribly, as we all are. So I think that's about all I have.
Thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
All right, Principal Valstracci.
All right, good evening to the chair and to the members of the committee. I feel like I've been giving you a lot of updates in the last few weeks, so you're kind of getting a lot, but we're excited to be starting the second half of the year. It's amazing how fast the time has gone by, and I think not just for teachers and staff and support groups, but also for our students and families. And I think the midway point of the year is here, and we're starting to see some positive trends as far as re-engaging some students and really working on every case-by-case basis individually to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students and giving every student a chance to be successful. I do want to state for the committee and superintendent who's aware, every single student in Mashpee Middle High School, grades 7 through 12, has the opportunity to pass every single class this year. We've worked to put in supports, interventions, and things in place to make sure that every student has that opportunity and that it's not too late. So we're going to continue to work to engage our students and families. It's been a really positive 2 weeks in regard to the uptick in students attending their in-person weeks, and we're really excited about that. And I know Skyla does a great job of sharing information, but we're going to continue to work with our students. We get feedback every single day, whether it be going through classrooms, lunches, hallways, getting feedback from our kids. Overwhelmingly, the feedback is they do a lot better when they're with us in the building. A lot more students this week and last are starting to shift back from that remote to hybrid learning model, which is encouraging. So I'm confident in our kids, and I believe in our students and families, and certainly our staff to make sure that we finish on a strong note. So I just want to let you know that we are continuing to work on that. In recognition of National School Counselors Week, I do want to recognize again and echo Superintendent DeBoer's comments about our school counseling team. We're in a situation where we're very unique with having an A-B rotation, different cohorts, and really working to make sure we maintain that balance so that technically every student could come into the building on their cohort week if they are able to. And as you go into a new semester, we have over 55 new classes beginning that are half-year electives, and we didn't have to make any major changes. So we started today and it really went off without a hitch. And I think that is just a testament to the preparation and the proactive work that these counselors do each and every day. To schedule 700 plus students in 7 different classes in different cohorts is really a challenge, and they've just been phenomenal. They've also been phenomenal in their outreach to families. I was able to observe a conversation today of one of our new counselors. She's phenomenal in every single way, a true professional. And we had a new student that recently started from another town with us in Mashpee. And the family response just to how we've welcomed the student into the school, the supports we've put in place to make sure that that student feels welcome, part of our program, part of our school community, just lights out from the parent perspective. So we're really excited about the work that they're doing. I do want to take the moment to recognize our counselors. And just another couple plugs on the, make sure I get the right date for you all. On the 10th of February, so next week, week from today, we are going to be hosting, the councils will be hosting a virtual parent night for college awareness, financial aid, things of that nature, and kind of getting our junior class up and going and getting them thinking ahead. We have over 80% of our students have already applied to college or some form of post-secondary education, which is excellent. So our kids are moving forward. So we're excited to offer that night and to help our families and then continue in that process and making sure they're as prepared and have every resource possible as they continue their future planning. And just a couple of other things. I know Principal O'Brien, Principal Goulart have all mentioned, thanking our teachers and staff. And I think, again, I can echo that. They're working really hard. And, when you talk to students, if you were to ask students, what's the biggest barrier in remote learning or this experience, it's really that human connection and that it's hard to get over a Zoom and that type of thing. But when you talk to students about the effort their teachers are putting forth, the flexibility, the patience, they all speak very, very highly of the staff. And I think that's hugely important to recognize that the kids feel that way. And we continue to work with them, to make sure that we're providing the best learning environment for them. And we talk about retention and summer programs and things of that nature, which may and could possibly be a necessity. But that's the last resort for us. We really want to make sure that kids have half a year left. They can turn it around if they need to. And we really, again, to echo Principal O'Brien, we value our relationships and partnerships with our families, especially in a remote type of setting. So really, we're here for you. We're here for the students. We're here for the families as well. And anything that we can do to support each other, I think is going to be vital moving forward. I do want to go on the record stating that, in Mashpee Public Schools, we've continued to teach synchronous learning the entire school year. And, we've got 80 to 85% of our students doing very, very well. And I think that's something to be super proud of. And we often look at where our shortcomings are. But I think it's important to validate the work that's been done by everyone, including our families, to support these kids in finding success. So I'm excited about the rest of the year, confident in our students and very optimistic. And then lastly, for Kathy Loico, I know we've all kind of got our moments here, but Kathy, going to be phenomenally missed. I came into Mashpee as a 22-year-old kid with no experience, not a lot of background. And Kathy, from that first day I met her in HR all the way up to my current role, just a phenomenal person, a resource, a support, and someone who would always just be there for you if you needed to vent, if you needed to make a call, you had a question. And thank goodness she was the bus person. So she was just a legend for that. But again, she's going to be sorely missed. Kathy, we all love you and we wish you the very best in retirement. But on a personal note, thank you for all you've done for me as a young professional, as you've helped me greatly throughout my time here in Mashpee. So we'll miss you greatly, and I hope you have a phenomenal retirement.
Thank you.
Mark, I think Dr. Hanscom, we're going to have her talk about an upcoming event next.
Yeah, I just wanted to put out there that for really the whole district, but we sent it out to KCC and Quashnet families. We're having our first monthly family read aloud night next Wednesday, the 10th. And each month we'll have a special guest reader. Spoiler alert, this one is Mrs. DeBoer leading it off. And so we would love to see families jump on the Zoom. It's, 15, 20 minutes, but just a chance to hear some of your favorite people from school reading their favorite stories and kind of coming together and talking about books. So I just wanted to make sure we put the plug in. I'll send a reminder out next week, but we really are excited to have this this little reading series started.
Thank you.
And before we shift to Ashley's section, I just also want to include my opportunity, or give myself an opportunity, to thank Mrs. Loiko. And I think I first interacted with Mrs. Loiko when I was the teacher for one of her sons, way back in my first couple of years as a 6th grade teacher in Mashpee. So that's where I first met her. And then as my career through Mashpee changed, and when I became the assistant principal at the Quashnet School, Kathy Loiko was my administrative assistant who provided me with support. And she is such a doer and always has been. So I believe that in her retirement years, she will find some other activities, because she cannot sit still. And she is a very good problem solver. There's nothing that she shies away from. So I'm going to miss Kathy greatly, not only for the work that she provides to the district, but most importantly for me, for the person that she is, and not having the opportunity to see her every single day at work. So, but I wish you the best, and I will definitely greatly miss you, but you're always welcome to come back to visit.
Thank you, Patty.
Wait, she's
Thank
coming.
you, everybody.
Kathy, you're coming to Friday lunches, right?
Not every Friday, but I'll be there now and again.
We know where you live. We're finding you.
Thank you, folks, very much.
Nicole?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Mark. 2 things, actually. One, with respect to kind of, don't we start planning like step up for Quashnet kids to middle school soon? And I just wondered what we envision that looking like this year. I'm not asking as a 6th grade parent, although I am one of those people. I just thought that might be something that people are curious about. And then also, we're solidly on track to sort of run the graduation like we did last year, I think, right? So our seniors, are we starting to prepare sort of for that now that we're into the second half of the year? Those are my 2 questions.
2 great questions. So first off, with the graduation, yes, we're planning for our June 5th graduation outside. We're already in the process of booking everything, getting our vendors, our materials. We very graciously, the district paid for the caps and gowns for all of the class of 2021, which again, a very graceful gesture, generous gesture. And those kids came in and were able to get their caps and gowns. Some left them for safekeeping with us in the school. Others took them home, but it was great to see them. And it was the first time in a long time you got to see a good amount of hope in kids' eyes. And I think that was really exciting. So it was awesome to get them in. So yes, we do plan for that to continue. And then in regard to step up night and transition activities, Principal O'Brien and I have already started talking about those. One of the biggest things I think that I've found this year as a principal position is, our 7th graders and 9th graders, they just didn't get all those transitional activities that they would have gotten over the spring and summer. So there was a little bit of a gap there when they came in, and they've caught up quickly. It took them some time, but they've caught up quickly. And I think now moving forward, we want to ensure whatever it looks like, whether it's virtual, whether it's one-on-ones, whatever it ends up being, that we provide that transition and as much material and information to our families as possible. So that you'll get more information for that probably in the middle of March, end of March, as we'll start that stuff in the spring. But I know Principal O'Brien's already talking to her 6th grade teachers about, starting to kind of use the different language and start, prepare expectations and prepare them for what it's going to look like in 7th grade. But we're excited for that. And we're also excited with our current 6th graders that hopefully next fall, if it starts this spring as we plan, next fall, we'll also be having and adding Wapana'ak to the grade 7 language rotation, which is going to be pretty neat. So we're in the process of that. But I think it's a very great question that you asked, because it's a point of emphasis for us, because we just didn't feel that those kids got that experience last spring, due to the closure of everything.
All right.
And just to add, the cap and gown it was a $20 expenditure per graduate. And I think we have about 120 graduates, or right around there. And then also, again, this year we are purchasing the yearbooks for the members of this class, which is probably going to be a little under 9,000.
Mary Kate?
If I could just add that transition for third grade is equally as important. And that's something Principal Goulart and I are also working on. Last year, we didn't have as many. We were lucky to be able to at least have a tour before school started to alleviate some of those fears. But we definitely will be working on those transitional days, and we'll have that this spring. And it's important to get those second graders over to Quashnet as well.
Thank you, Mary. And next on the agenda is Ashley.
Hi, everyone. The FY21 budget report, there are not many differences from our last meeting, just kind of when I had to prepare this report. So those are consistent from the last meeting. Same thing with our grants and revolving accounts, as well as the food service and the COVID spending reports. There are two items I do want to highlight. Since our last meeting, we found out our ESSER 2 allocation. That will be $650,000. $10,000 of that must be allocated at least to mental health. We have not received the application. That doesn't come out until the end of this week into next week. And once we have that, Hope and I will work on it together. We also received early this week notification that we are going to be receiving an additional $81,000 from the state. Currently, it's to be used on PPE and other things within the school. There hasn't been a lot of guidance on this. We were not expecting it at all, but it was provided to us. There'll be one allocation given to us in February, and then the second allocation will be given to us in April, and those will be 2 equal payments. So the state is providing us with funding. We do have options when it comes to summer for those students who need the additional support. So Hope and I and Patty will be working on that in the next couple weeks.
What was the amount again, Ashley? I kind of lost your mic when you said that.
Oh, I'm sorry. $650,000.
That was the second piece, the part that comes in February, and then.
So that's the ESSER 2 funding that we have from now until September of 2023. The additional funding that we received in the last week that does not have a grant application with it is $81,000. Those will be coming in 2 installments in February and in April.
Questions?
What's the acronym you're using? SR2? What are you calling it?
ESSER is ESSER 2. We had that funding in over the summer as well. ESSER 1. It's elementary and secondary schools emergency relief.
I see it now. I just didn't know the term. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Dawn? No? You need to unmask your mic, Dawn.
Yes. Can you hear me?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay. So the 81,000 was for PPE, correct?
Yes, so it's for PPE, supplies, and costs associated with social distancing, on-site learning, remote learning, or hybrid learning approaches as determined by the school district. It's very broad. I'm hoping that we receive a little bit more information as we go through the process. We were just given this information on Monday.
And that can be expended over what time period?
It actually hasn't been set. There's no information on what the deadline is for spending it.
Okay. And then the 650,000 goes through September 30th?
September 30th, 2023.
2023.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And that can be expended, I'm sorry, that can be expended on?
Various items, technologies, supplies, PPE, but a minimum of that money needs to be spent on student mental health services and support.
Like all of it, maybe. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's good.
Was that funding from the second relief package that was passed? Okay, so that's our, and it was that, is our funding given to us on a per student basis or some kind of per capita, or how, where's that number?
The Title I allocation, just
Okay.
ESSER 1.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Kathy or Jeff, questions?
It's good news.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, next on the agenda, subcommittees and working groups. Outreach working group, please.
So I'll start and our members can add anything. So in the packet, you have the 3 planned family opinion surveys for 2021. There are 3 because there's 1 for each school. The outreach working group met today to review the questions. So from what you have in the packet, you really only have to say, look at, I would recommend we only look through the Mashpee Middle High School survey because the others are exactly the same, but we did make some edits today in our working group that are not reflected in what you have. And after tonight, sort of with your input on any other changes, we have selected families. Well, we haven't notified or requested, but we have, the admin team has selected families to serve as sort of our focus group. And we'll be scheduling a Zoom meeting probably next week. And then the members of the focus group will be taking the surveys. And we tried to pick, obviously we have representatives from each school, a Native American family, an ELL family, special education parents, and then families that might have a student in more, in 2 schools. And this survey is designed so that when you have completed it, say for, your student in 7th grade, if you have another student in 9th grade, the link is at the end of the survey to then go and take it again with the designation of the 9th grader and keeping in mind what that child's experiences are like. So do you want me to go through what we're tweaking on this? Okay. So on page 72 of the packet, which is the first page of the high school survey, the only change to that is we're going to add a 3rd sort of paragraph there before the ending of that intro. And it's going to say, if at any time you have concerns about your Mashpee Public Schools student, please reach out to Principal Balistracci, and it will include his email and his phone number. And that will be obviously each principal at each of the school surveys, just to reinforce that as an opportunity for any parents who want to address anything else that's not, that they didn't have a place to share out in this survey. We are collecting emails. We're not collecting student names, but we do have the email information. So then page 73, those 3 questions have no changes: student's grade, learning model, and the public image of the Mashpee Public Schools. And we did look over our last 3 surveys, last 3 annual surveys, and there are threads that are being carried through so that we'll be able to measure hopefully growth versus decline. Page 74, those 3 questions are staying the same: understanding the role of the school committee, how my child feels at school, and the bus experience. On page 75 of the packet, the first 2 questions you see there are staying the same. My child's schools / teachers communicate what students are expected to know, understand, and be able to do. The second one there, administrators / staff at my child's school are welcoming. No changes there. But in the 3rd question, we are changing that, or the recommendation of the outreach working group is, I know where to go with questions about my child's school experiences, instead of just, I know where to go about questions. On page 76, the first question is no change. My child's teacher or teachers understand and know my child. But on the second question, we're changing that to read, staff thoroughly respond to my questions / concerns in a timely manner. And then we're also changing the 3rd question on that page to read, I would welcome additional strategies to support my child's engagement with his or her learning. So we tweaked that a little. Page 77, the question at the top, originally what you're looking at reads, social emotional learning, SEL, is a significant part of my child's overall learning. We are changing that to say the Mashpee Public Schools has made social emotional learning an important part of my child's education. And then parents can give their thoughts on that. No other changes to the next 2 questions, which also relate to social emotional well-being. On page 78, the middle question we are changing to read, I would welcome additional strategies to use at home to support my child's social emotional well-being. And then we are also moving that question up one because it seemed like a disconnect because of it's a social emotional question. And then we will move that one at the top. I know how to access behavioral health services in the community if my child needs them. That will be moved to the middle question on that page. There's no change on the bottom question. I'm comfortable reaching out to or communicating with my child's teacher. Page 79, this question we're actually moving to right before the very last question, right before the portrait of a graduate, but we did change the wording. And so from what you see, we are recommending that it would say the Mashpee Public Schools promotes a climate of diversity, inclusiveness, and equity, period. And then parents will share what they think about that. But again, we're going to shift that question to right before the portrait of a graduate. There's no change in the next two questions. And then page 80 in the packet, it's about communication from principal, then communication from district level. And that's after that district level question is where that diversity question will be placed. We're also going to add a numbering to these once the final order is set. Then the very last question, we have inserted the portrait of a graduate so that all families have that as a resource. And we changed the last, not the last question itself, but the answer choices to a yes or a no. So the last one says, I understand the 5 competencies of Mashpee's portrait of a graduate, yes or no.
Yeah.
And this is sort of, you know, we feel that we have not fully, you know, our portrait of a graduate has not fully come alive yet because of the timing of COVID and everything like that and the work. So we just want to sort of get a baseline measure of and bring it to a notice point for our families by putting it in here. And as we continue to do work and bring this document alive, then as we go further and down the road with our surveys, we'll continue to collect some information on that. So does anyone have any questions or suggestions? The target for sending this out to families is right after the February vacation. That's when we have done it generally in the past several years. So if we have, it's, I mean, it'll be pretty well all set to go at that point.
Anyone with questions? Nicole?
Yeah, so it's going to go out online through email, right? And then are we still going to do a paper follow-up if after 3 weeks or something?
We'll do reminders, but because we're not, I mean, we're collecting emails, but we're not assigning, there wouldn't be necessarily that tracking. It's going to be similar to what we did when we did our survey by school. I don't know if it was in the fall, it had to do with the learning plans and all of those. We got a pretty good response rate by that continual reminder to, but it won't be like we did the past years. We could, if someone requests a paper copy, we absolutely could mail it out, and that could be put in communication as well to families.
So how are you going to track, for example, my husband and I are both identified as, and our email addresses are both present. So how do you prevent me and my husband from responding?
Well, your emails are assigned to 2 specific children. So if you were, if you both did one for a, let's just say you have a 3rd grader, if you both did one for a 3rd grader, we would know that you had done it twice. Or we could check that. If the numbers came back, obviously.
So if we both do it, which one do you throw out?
We might have to go back to the family.
Just saying, it becomes really, if you're not doing this by household, it becomes very messy. That's just my recommendation. And you won't, I think the really important thing is that you know how many respondents you have, how many, you know, what your universe is that you're sending out to. I know you guys don't like it, but it really helps if you just assign a number to every household so that you can track it. It can be kept separately, doesn't have to identify anybody. It still remains anonymous, but it's really hard to track survey response when you have multiple opportunities for households to respond. And SurveyMonkey doesn't. And then the other thing I want to point out is that we've gotten in past years, as you know, 15 to 20% response from the mail surveys. People will respond by mail if they're given the opportunity. So that'll just help us get a better response. The other thing I noticed, I think it looks really good. My question on the learning model question, I was just going to say you might want to add the word current, because some people started the year in one learning model and changed, and they might be confused about what they should respond there. So that would be a good clarification. And then I noticed you took out all the open ends. People might want to say something to us.
We did talk about that. I don't know if Kathy, you want to talk about that. That did come up, which was kind of how we ended up putting that intro line in there as well.
Yeah, it came up and it was, we talked about it because like you just said, people might have comments they want to make. And I think, Hope brought up the point of then filtering through those can sometimes, it gets a little, sometimes not necessarily what you're looking for in terms of answers, and as well as then sorting and reading through them all. So I think that's why we felt maybe moving more towards keeping this as just that temperature, that dipstick, that
word.
Yeah, well,
This is an educational conversation. That word is appropriate.
But yeah, that was kind of where we went with this, where we were kind of thinking in terms of how this survey was going to function.
Can I add something to that, Kathy? Is that
do,
okay? Yeah. The other piece, Nicole, was doing the open-ended in and analyzing the qualitative data when we're not tying it to households, because we're not, if given what we've proposed to you. Then what do we do with that information? Whereas if we put in the intro, this is who you reach out to if you have questions, follow up, you want to say anything else. It allows for that feedback, but we didn't feel like that we were going to be able to do a heck of a lot with qualitative information given in the way that the survey is going out, the way it's been proposed.
Well, it's true. I've read through 3 years of those responses, so I'm familiar. You get a little bit of everything, but you do get suggestions, about programming and ideas that parents might have. But I think given that we're going to be doing strategic planning development this year, there might be, what I noticed in this was kind of the absence of any, and I kind of get it. I'm of two minds on it, because this isn't a normal year. You're reaching, as if I'm thinking about myself as a parent, a nice, tidy, fill in the box, it's a really quick survey. So I'm not saying that you need to change it. I'm just saying I thought that initially we had talked about it as an opportunity to inform the strategic planning process, which has now been delayed significantly. So maybe the graduate question does that somewhat, but it just tells you how much further you have to go to explain it, really.
I think the other thing, sorry, and I meant to say this, that led us in the direction of not doing that was that this data from this year, we're not really going to use in a longitudinal way, because this year is not comparable to other years in terms of the learning models and what we're doing for instruction. And so we don't feel, at least as the working group, that it's going to give us real short-term information. And this mechanism probably isn't the best way to get that, because it's so vast. If we're looking for COVID specific sort of feedback, that's another survey. I think, am I right? Did we talk about that in the group?
Yeah, we mentioned that. We mentioned, because there was so much going on this year, of breaking that out. And I think that's also where those open response kind of fell into that bucket as well, as if we did want to kind of expand on things, maybe we did have maybe we look at having another survey that kind of digs a little deeper into those different aspects, whether it's COVID, whether it's, the the supports. If we get, we were talking about how if these come back as like one of the questions, if it came back with a really high positive response of like, am I getting the support? Maybe, or conversely, is that one of those questions that we would then do another survey kind of to put back out and get more information on? This was just kind of, I think, like Hope said, to get that shorter term, how to do the adjustments in the short term, and then kind of dig deeper if we needed to.
And we did include the diversity, inclusion, and equity question as a data point for our strategic planning, because we know that that's one of our 4 umbrella areas. And so that would be at least a little starting point in terms of perception from our families.
You're right. It does not allow for sort of those out of the box, that feedback and suggestions. And the committee may want to do that. I just, again, was sort of referencing what our conversations were about why we didn't recommend that.
Yeah, I guess what do you guys think? I'm looking at the other committee members. I can totally see that. And then I also wonder, does it come off like a little tone deaf to sort of not talk about the elephant in the room sort of thing? Or
so before you go, one of the other suggestions I had before we did the sentence in the opening was to have an open end at the very end, just saying, is there anything you have concerns or comments about? But then we kind of figured, instead of leaving it open-ended, let them, and feel like they have to write something, put it in the opening so that they can email. But I mean, do we revisit that thought of putting something at the end of just the open, are there any comments you have? Would that like alleviate some of what you're looking for? Like, would that provide that space, you think?
Well, I mean,
I
if
mean,
you
I think it does, but
I mean,
go ahead.
it gives a place for families to have a voice in an organized way. And it could be just share any other thoughts you'd like. And it's obviously, it would be an optional question. They wouldn't have to respond to it. And they could talk about anything that they wanted to share. And like you say, rather than steer it in, what other programming would you like to see? We're just so out there this year. I mean, the main programming I want is normal school year. So I don't know that, but if we do an open-ended, just share your thoughts on any other topics or anything you'd like us to know, they could do that.
Yeah, personally, I just don't know, other than them being able to share share their thoughts, what we're trying to get from that as far as actionable items, and also comparative items to prior years or for the future. But I mean, we definitely could include something if we wanted to.
I think it would just be giving them a voice. I think that's kind of what I'm hearing. The concern is that parents might not feel their voices heard through these questions, or if they have something they'd like to elaborate on. Am I understanding that correctly, Nicole? Like, that's kind of the concern, that they don't have that voice through this as it's currently set.
I'll just say that it's fairly standard practice to have at least one open-ended response, so that if you, interpreted a question a certain way, or say didn't like something, there's basically no opportunity to comment in this survey at all. They're being asked questions, but they're not allowed to, I mean, they could want to say very nice things. I don't know, but it's fairly typical to allow at least one kind of open-ended thing that is voluntary, and to kind of give them the space to do that. So I think you have very good reasons for not including it. And just the sheer bandwidth of reading through those responses. But I mean, maybe you'll get a couple hundred, maybe you'll get 50, but it's not like, I don't think it's an inordinate sum of data compared to what we've, based on what we've gotten over the last several years.
I think it would be well received by families to include that opportunity, whether it results in actionable items, maybe not, but at least it does give them that feeling that they can talk about. So whether it was like, please share any other thoughts or comments you have at this time. I
Yeah.
originally said on any topic, but that might make them think it was topic within the survey, and I don't want them to think that. So we could have that, and it's an optional question.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, it wasn't about us doing work weeding through. It was about the value of the work to weed through. That was the conversation. I just want to make it clear that we're up for whatever work it is that we need to be doing in our office.
No, yeah, I didn't mean it like, I just meant, it's sort of like the utility of it. And I think the utility is probably more for the families. And also I think it's just a good year to keep that feedback. You're talking to a lot of families, but you're probably not talking to a lot of families too. And so this might be their opportunity to say something that's working or isn't, or concerns they have. And, thinking about a post-COVID reality, whenever that is, if I had kids in the Coombs School, for example, I'd be looking ahead, thinking about this district with a much longer trajectory, and certainly thinking beyond, kind of what's happening in these next 6 to 8 months. So I think that opportunity might be important for those types of families as well. So
So why don't we all agree to include then that type of open-ended question, so that we can gather that information and give them an opportunity to express any of their thoughts on any of the subjects that they want to discuss. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the survey with our suggested edits, Nicole's question edit, and then adding that last open-ended question is what will be prepared for the focus group to test out for us. And there might be a few more tweaks that they come up with as well.
And my only other recommendation is that it's really important to be able to understand whether the people who respond are representative relative to the people who don't respond. And so the one thing that we've been able to do over the last 3 years is look at the makeup of the households that respond, whether, their kids, they have kids in all the schools or multiple schools. And so we had like those 7 or 8 combinations of families that have kids in multiple schools. And then you can kind of look at the percentages of response that you get in those categories and feel satisfied that you haven't missed a big category of people. And there are other ways to do that, but that's kind of the way we've been doing it. And so I would just love to sort of hear what our plans are for being able to do that again, regardless of how you issue the survey or whether you do follow-ups or something. It would be important to be able to indicate, to understand who's responded and who hasn't. It's like the premise behind all the data, right?
I think we will be able to sort the data and have some of that information for you.
Okay, sorry, it's kind of just my thing.
Okay. There was one person that wanted to make sure that I ended the meeting on time, so I'll just move along here with the finance working group.
Jeff, do you want to?
I think the only thing we need to add, Nicole, is we did discuss a plan to update the plan. We talked about a plan to get our 5-year financial plan back in order, reevaluate the assumptions. And there was also some discussion about adding into that plan kind of a predetermined encumbrance for school choice. And that wouldn't be something that lies within just the financial working group. It was definitely discussed that, we would get input from the administration and then the financial working group, and then we would present that kind of information to the committee for final dispensation. I can't think of anything else we missed, but we spent most time talking about the budget and then a couple things before we had to wrap up.
Yeah, we talked about the timing of that and the strategic plan and trying to make.
Oh, right. Yep.
And then I think leading into sort of having a retreat where the school committee could really, get some information about the 5-year plan, but also really look at the 5-year plan for school choice type of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. There's no unfinished business that I know of. New business, legislative breakfast. You've all received an email. If you are interested in signing up for that, please do. Proclamation for performing arts. Nicole, that was really your bailiwick, so why don't I turn that over to you, please?
And we do have our music teachers with us, I believe.
Hello, everybody.
Hi there, how are you?
Good.
Welcome, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
George, I'm sorry, but I disconnected for a minute, and so I didn't. Am I supposed to do something?
No, I just said that this was your bailiwick if you wanted to start it off. So this was something that you pointed out and we're very interested in following up on. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured that happened. I'm sorry, my son, I got a new mouse and I hit a button and disconnected. So I had to come back in. So I basically just, we had received this information from Sandwich Public Schools regarding the performing arts and sort of putting them on even keel in terms of guidance from the state that would allow us to schedule activities in the same way that, you know, our student athletes are able to do indoor winter sports, et cetera. And so you have in the packet the letter that the Sandwich School District sent to the state, and the response that you said, Patty, that the districts had gotten, was that sent? Did you have the one that was sent back to Sandwich or everywhere? Did they send something to everyone?
No, that was related to vaccines, not this.
Oh, okay.
I did see a response that Sandwich received from Representative, I'm not going to say his name right, the new Zyros or Zyros. And basically his response to Sandwich was that they were working on it, but they were currently doing all the guidelines in place. But like Hope said, that they're working on putting some level of attention, like MIAA has put into sports, to arts, music and singing and musical instruments.
Right. So that was it. The question was whether, you know, we wanted to add amplitude to Sandwich's resolution by adopting one of our own, and whether our staff at, you know, our instructors here at the Mashpee Public Schools felt that that was warranted or important as a way to support our students. And so I really just had asked that this be added so we could hear directly from them.
We definitely do. It's another voice, even though it was turned down initially. We're hoping it does turn around at some point. And it was mainly about singing in schools, because presently we are able to play instruments in schools with instrument covers on, but singing is not allowed per the state. So any additional support of that initiative, if they keep hearing it squeaky wheel, hopefully at some point, and you know, with vaccination coming out, hopefully at some point it comes back sooner than later, obviously.
Jeff, you're muted.
Thank you very much. I said, Mr. Chair, I don't know how to move forward with this, but you know, I for one support getting a proclamation in place. I'm not sure what committee this would lie into, maybe policy, to get one genned up, unless somebody makes a motion just to piggyback onto Sandwich.
Are we scheduled for a vote tonight?
Negative.
No.
Okay. So Andy, have you seen the one from Sandwich?
Yes, she put it on. We have a music educators Facebook page, and it's on there, and it's cleanly worded, but it mainly is saying how athletes are back. I think there's cheerleading back too, but they haven't allowed singing. And of course, Emily could probably speak to this more than me, but there's research that says singing in schools is not a danger, but we are following state guidelines. So that's the letter that she had written, but it was just plainly worded, about 4 paragraphs saying to consider it, getting it back in there.
Got it. So maybe you can introduce some of the folks that are here from the music department, so that everybody knows. I've heard about Emily. She's famous by the families that her students that worked with her students. So I know who you are, but maybe for everybody's sake, we could introduce everyone.
Sure. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? None of you are shy or soft-spoken.
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, I'm Elena Boyd. I'm one of the music teachers at Quashnet School. I'm actually out on maternity leave right now, but when I'm usually there, I teach general music to 3rd through 6th graders, and I do the elementary school band, which is not running this year, but is 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And I do the 5th and 6th grade. Oh, we had 4th grade last year. 4th, 5th, and 6th grade chorus.
I'm Liesl Crehan, and I teach general music at Casey Coombs to grades K through 2, and usually pre-K as well, but not this year.
I'm Emily Mills. I teach middle and high school chorus, middle school strings, and also general music.
You're muted, George.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming was the sentence.
So maybe I just, because we have you all here, I'm sorry, George, I might blow your agenda just a little bit, but since you're all here, can you maybe share sort of, we've seen, well, I guess we've seen it, but maybe the public hasn't seen, since it wasn't in the packet, what Andy kind of collected from all the different schools. And so maybe if you could just share what is happening with chorus or singing in the schools, like what, I know there are some activities taking place.
I'll go ahead with that one. For the high school, we are fortunate we have access to some equipment that the kids have at home. They have microphones, and so they're able to sing at home and practice, and I'm able to zoom in one-on-one lessons with them during the class period. And then when they're in school, if they're a hybrid student, they're able to make music videos where they're actually lip syncing to what they recorded and worked on at home.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Just going and teaching them how to go about creating their own content, creating their own music videos, and editing it and producing it.
Do we have the ability to, I've seen a lot of those, during the last year where they splice together different people, like singing, because if we all tried to sing Patty Happy Birthday right now, all the timing would be off. It would kind of sound like chaos. So do we have the capability to do that with kids where they can kind of collaborate with other students on performances?
We do. They're sending, for me, they're sending recordings. So having them all sing together, there's one person who starts, so that would probably be me. And then they would sing along with me and record it at home. And then they'll send me their recording singing with me, and I'd be able to edit it all together, and we'd have a full chorus sound.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, you're frozen.
Oh, sorry.
Nicole, you're frozen.
I am?
Yeah, your voice is coming through, but the picture is just frozen, just as a warning.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay. At Quashnet, I believe the only singing, I know Chris isn't able to speak right now, and I haven't been there in a while. So, but I believe the only singing that's happening right now is recordings of me from the very beginning of the year. And obviously the kids at home can sing, but there's no singing happening in general music class, and there's no chorus running right now. And Mary Kate, if I'm off on that. Chris kind of asked me to just jump in because I know she's not able to speak right now, but I'm pretty sure that they're just listening to recordings of me that I made from my house over the summer and at the very beginning of the year, early September. And sometimes I haven't recently, but before I was out, I was sending Chris recordings of just me. So they're not hearing or doing any live singing right now.
That's right, Elena. They are listening to your recordings as well as Chris's, and they are being posted on the playlists for music class. So students, when they are home, are able to engage in those recordings and sing along, and but not within class. So thank you. It's good to see you.
Right. What about, yeah.
At the Coombs School, our general population is in person 100% of the time. So we are also not singing at all, but I have recordings for them of myself and other singers, so they hear the melodic model. And especially with the kindergarten, we're practicing speaking high and low and learning the musical opposites just so they have a foundation. But mainly we're just doing things like rhythm and music history, music appreciation, until we can build in that other piece.
And I will say at the Coombs School, Liesl does a great job with sort of the whole rhythm and movement, and they're seeing things on the clear touch, and they're, you know, they're having fun in sort of dancing and all that. They're not singing, but they are absorbing some music.
I was watching something over the weekend, and they played that Grand Old Flag song in the background. And anyone who has a parent who's gone through this district has the image of our kids on Flag Day singing that flag song that I, you know, can't erase the words to that song from my memory now. And it just, it bums me out that we, you know, I just am desperate to try to figure out how we kind of have something similar for the kids so that they don't miss out on that. In being a positive mindset, Patty. I'm just wondering, and I guess when the weather improves, we'll have the opportunity to be outside. So you guys were able to be outside until the weather precluded that, basically. So I guess, Andy, did you have anything to add before?
No, I'm only instrumental, but we are doing playing in schools, but it's limited. And like you said, the recording is hard. We are using a program, the district picked up a program called Smart Music that the kids have a large 3,000 to 5,000 song library that they can pick songs from. I can assign songs they have to record themselves on. So we are maintaining, but it's impossible. You know, you get 5 kids in the class to try and do anything ensemble wise together as a group has been impossible. But just trying to keep them playing and going. We're going to have to consider what happens next year, and I know that's for everything, but we did lose our feeder this year. We didn't start any new kids in 4th grade, so it's going to be a huge gap for a couple years unless we can get 2 grades going or something. I'm not sure what we can do. We'd like to have time to meet and talk together as music teachers pretty soon, so we can start formulating and offer options for everybody if possible. But we do have to start thinking of how do we pick up the pieces for next year too.
Yeah, and Andy, it's not just the feeder program, the 4th graders. There was no elementary band at all so far this year. So it's going to look like a different program. And I don't know what the plan is in the spring for elementary band yet, but right now there hasn't been any instrumental band at Quashnet.
So Andy, at the middle high school, instrumental classes take place.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a real focus for your feeder program. So at the elementary, there's no instrumental taking place?
No.
There's no. Why is it?
Well, we couldn't play wind or brass instruments till December. We didn't get the okay. The state didn't okay those covers till then. So we've just started playing this past late December, early January. We finally get to start playing in school. They were okay to play at home, but not in school.
Yeah. Well, I think next year in general for particularly your department, but for others as well, we are going to have to really look at how we sort of fill in some of the gaps that have occurred. So we'll have to figure that out. And yes, your input as a team of music teachers is definitely something that we're going to have to make sure is coming through loud and clear so we can plan to make that work.
Right.
So like my suggestion would be in terms of a school committee resolution is that, I mean, we have sandwiches as a model that Hope and I could work with the music teachers to develop sort of a draft for our school committee and then take it to policy for their input and then bring it back to the school committee for their vote on that.
I would think there'd be enough time to be able to do that by the next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
We cancel February 24th.
If we cancel February 24th, we would be able to do it by the next meeting, but otherwise probably not.
Otherwise, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, we're in whatever you need from us. And I just want to say we really appreciate you talking to us and considering the music program. That speaks a lot about what Mashpee considers and supports, how they can support the arts. So thank you.
I have very strong feelings that I have a cellist upstairs who's going to keep me in the lap of luxury in my old age. And I need all of you to make that happen, please.
We'll start working on that tomorrow, Hope.
I don't know if he would agree that he...
Yeah, there's some very powerful, powerful phrases in that resolution. I think my favorite one is when they were talking about for these art and music students, the art and music teams are the art and music groups are their teams.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we can definitely put that forward. I think really powerfully. I love it.
Right.
No, I agree. And I think music and Mashpee, I mean, I know it was a cornerstone of my Mashpee education, going through band and chorus, and it's vital, I think. You know, you've got kids who feel sports are vital. Music is vital for a lot of our kids in Mashpee too. I mean, granted, my daughter, we've got her in voice lessons because she missed it so much because she had to. So it's one of those things, it's definitely missed in our house greatly, both the band and the chorus. And I know if it's missed in our house, there's other houses that are missing it just as much. So whatever, if it comes to policy, I think like Jeff said, there's some really great terms here. And if we can kind of tweak this and make it specific to Mashpee, I'm all for it.
Okay. So why don't we go that route then, folks?
Instrumental music and singing, those skills, you can carry those for a lifetime, and athletes don't always get to continue with those skill sets later in life. So this is more something you can take with you.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Are you looking for simply the resolution modeled after this but tweaked for Mashpee, or are you also looking for a letter?
I thought just the resolution, just in the interest of expediency. But if you want to include a letter that we could send to our representatives as a way to put some teeth behind it, I would welcome that as well.
I agree, because if Representative Zeros is saying that it's kind of taken a back burner, I'd like to put pressure on our representative, I think, who is Julian Sear, let's get those letters out and get that going.
Yeah, we do have, just as an FYI, we have an opportunity next Friday. We have the legislative breakfast that's hosted by the Cape Cod Collaborative in cooperation with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and the entire delegation has committed to attend. So I think we can make sure that this gets brought up during the Q&A there so that they know it's coming. And I would love to have a sense of what other districts on the Cape are also, going this route. I think my concern is, Andy, and I appreciate you sort of I'm very encouraged to know that you're in such close contact with your counterparts in our neighboring districts and across the Cape. I think what you hear a lot throughout the last year, not just in Mashpee, but all over, is, well, they're doing that, how come we can't do that? And there's a lot of comparing, and I just, you never know whether that's really true because I don't have like an ear in the music departments for all these other districts. So I really appreciate you taking the trouble to assemble that information and share it with us and giving us a high degree of confidence that if we could be doing something, we would be.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that the families know that and that we're not missing anything right now. I mean, we're missing a lot, but that our teachers and staff are really trying to do everything that they can to get that back.
Yeah, we're following guidelines. We're doing what we've been asked to do, so that's all we can do.
Yeah, it's not a satisfying answer, but it's the one we have, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Nicole, are you done? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm finished. Thanks, George.
Okay, thank you all for joining us this evening and giving us your input, and I'm sure the administration will be in contact with you as far as writing the letter and the resolution is concerned, and then to the policy committee, and we'll have a vote on it at the next scheduled school committee meeting,
right,
if it is after February 24th. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Lena.
Okay.
You picked a good year to go on maternity leave. That's for sure.
I do timing.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next item, which is probably the most controversial item that will take up all year, and that is whether or not we will have the February 24th school committee meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move to cancel the February 24th school committee meeting.
I second.
This may be the fastest thing we're going to do all night. Okay, discussion on the motion, Jeff?
No, sir.
Anyone else? Call for the vote. Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Dawn? Dawn?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And George, yes. It passed unanimously. I do not know of any other items to bring before the committee this evening. Unless anyone else does, we are now open for public comment, and I am looking at the screen here and I don't see anybody that is a member of the public unless I'm missing something.
There's nothing in the chat at this time.
Thank you very much. Is there any further business to come before the school committee this evening?
This is Don. I had one question that came up and as we were talking about the sandwich resolution and performing arts. And I guess my question is to the administration, is there any other areas that are operating under old guidelines or lack of guidelines from DESE as it relates to COVID that should be addressed or could be addressed also?
Well, I wouldn't say, old or prior, so the current guidelines, but I think the area of drama could use some attention. I know various schools are doing it in various ways, and we could have our kids distanced and masked and probably still be able to do it. I know they're doing some virtual opportunities, but that would be an area. I don't know, Hope, if you have any thoughts.
I just wanted to add and wonder if the committee would be open to, when we discuss the music piece with the music folks, including the drama piece in that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. The sandwich resolution specifically mentions theater.
Okay. So I think that
Arts
was
and
how I
theater.
envisioned it, is encompassing it that way.
Arts and
Yeah, I think that would be great. And I think there was there seemed to be a lot of focus on the singing, but I agree that balancing that out for us would make good sense. Yeah.
Okay, anything else to come before the committee? Hearing nothing, the meeting stands adjourned. Made it under the wire, Nicole. It was close.
Yeah, see y'all.
I told you.
Yeah.
You always pull it out. I don't know how, but